Hello and welcome to Book 5 of the Aeneid. Let's begin. So as they're sailing away, the Trojans spot the fire from Dido's pyre. I'm a poet and I didn't know it. But they don't know that it's from Dido's pyre, but they still get like a sense of foreboding from it and are like, oh, something bad is probably going to happen soon. And they're right, a storm hits them. So as they're sailing in this storm, Palinurus turns to Aeneas and is like, we should probably change course so we don't get killed. And Aeneas is like, good plan. So they sail off and they manage to land where Anchises was buried. And on this land where Anchises is buried, a guy named Acestes now rules. And I think he was another survivor of the Trojan War. So another fellow Trojan, woo! So he runs down from the mountain that is for some reason standing on and greets them all. And he gives them gifts for some reason, because that's what people do when they receive visitors. And once everyone's settled down, Aeneas announces a feast and ritual celebrations for his father, and announces that on the 9th day they will hold some funeral games, or as I like to call it, the Anchises Olympic Games. Woo! Nice. So Aeneas and some other men offer garlands of Venus's myrtle to the temple before Aeneas sacrifices on his father's grave. And after he sacrifices, a snake with blue and gold scales or whatever slithers out from underneath Anchises' tomb, tastes the offerings, and then goes back into the tomb. And Aeneas is watching this like, is that my father's spirit or is it just like a local spirit? And like after a bit of like debating, he's like, I don't really care, and he continues on with the rites. And then it's the Anchises Olympic Games. Oh my god. So the prizes are presented in front of everyone, and the trumpets sound the start of the games, and everyone's super excited, and it's like, woo, oh my god, Olympic Games, Anchises Games, woo! So the first event is a boat race, and there's 4 ships. The Pristis, which is commanded by Menestheus, the Chimera, commanded by Gaius, and apparently the ship is like as big as a city. The 3rd ship is the Centaur, which is commanded by Sergestus, and the Scylla, which is a blue-green ship commanded by Cloanthus. So just before the race begins, Aeneas puts a green branch on a rock out at sea as a marker for them to like turn back and go back to land from. And everyone draws lots for starting positions. Captains put on some purple and gold robes and shit, and the men oil themselves up, and then they set off. So while this race is happening, there's obviously a lot of struggle because that's how races tend to work. And Gaius tries to get his helmsman Menoetes, if that's how you pronounce it, to go close to the rocks, so for some reason make them go faster. But his helmsman is like, I don't know, we might hit some hidden rocks. And while he drives away from the rocks that Gaius wants to go close to, Cloanthus manages to sail past. Gaius gets so mad that he literally starts crying with rage and throws his helmsman off board in the most diva act since insert a moment from RuPaul's Drag Race here, literally any, and he becomes the helmsman. So Menoetes nearly drowns after being thrown off board, as you would imagine, but he manages to get back up from underneath the water, and he sits on the rock which the branch is on and starts throwing up water, and for some reason everyone laughs at this. Virgil clearly has a sixth sense of humour. So Menestheus goes past Sergestus after a bit of a struggle with him. He passes Gaius, who quite evidently can't be a captain and a helmsman, not much of a surprise, and he starts to pursue Cloanthus, who is currently in first place. So Cloanthus sees this and prays to the gods, and is then helped out when the sea nymph Panopea, I think, and the Nereids hear him, and the sea god Portunus pushes the ship, and he wins. And they're all awarded prizes, and everyone laughs at Sergestus because his ship is like super fucked up. So that's fun. So the second event is a foot race, and we have quite a few participants in this. We have Euryalus, who is known for being a pretty boy. Nisus, who's known for being Euryalus' boyfriend, essentially. Diores, who's a prince from Priam's lineage. Not his son, I don't think, but like from the same family tree. And then we have Salius, Patron, and some other unnamed contestants who we don't really care about. So Nisus manages to get himself into like first position, but he slips on some blood from a sacrifice and falls flat on his face. And he manages to get up, but he knows that he can't win at this point. Everyone's getting too close to him. So he does what any gay man would do for his wonderful boyfriend and leaps in front of Salius to trip him up so Euryalus can get past. True bromance right there, am I right? So Salius, after the race, obviously Euryalus wins because of this, and Salius gets pissed and tries to convince everyone to give penalties for Nisus' cheating. But a lot of people are on Euryalus' side because he's pretty, and Diores is also on his side because if this happens, he'll lose third place, and he don't want to do that. So Salius is eventually given an extra consolatory prize by Aeneas just to make up for this. And Nisus gets pissed because it's like, well, I fell over, so shouldn't I also get a consolatory prize? You know, it's a bit fucked up. And Aeneas laughs at this and is like, oh, okay, and gives him a shield dedicated to Neptune. He might as well have just gotten first place, to be honest, but, you know, I'm not going to judge. That's for you to judge. I'm just here to tell you the goddamn story, so discuss in the comments below, So the third event is a boxing fight thing, and Dares, who is known for being a very strong man and is an infamous hero from the Trojan War, gets up and is like, who wants to fight me in this boxing fight? And obviously, because he's like super buff, no one really wants to fight him because they all value their lives. But Acestes leans over to Entellus and is like, hey, weren't you super strong back in the day? You're quite a proficient warrior, he's nothing to you, you can do it. And Entellus is like, I don't know, I mean, I'm kind of old right now, I'm not as strong as I used to be. But after some pushing and shoving, he eventually puts on his gloves, given to him by Eryx, and is like, alright, put up your fists, bitch. And as the fight happens, it goes pretty fairly. They're both fighting pretty fair. But then Entellus misses Dares, and he manages to fall over, making everyone super worried because it's like an old man who falls over. Everyone gets worried when an old person falls over. And Acestes tries to help him, but then Entellus is like, no. And he gets up again and is super fucking mad. And he fights twice as hard. And Aeneas has to put an end to the fight because he's looking at this fight being like, Entellus is gonna kill that bitch. And he stops it and claims that, hey, Entellus clearly has the gods on his side, so this isn't really a fair fight. Meanwhile, in his head being like, we could have just had a fucking murder. I can't believe I agree to this. So that's the end to that fight. I think they decided to draw, but you're going to have to check me on that. So the fourth event is Archery. So the participants of this are Hippocoon, Menesthius, who is from the first event, Eurytion, and Acestes. So the whole point is that they got to shoot a bird which is pinned to a ship's mast, and they just got to shoot it. So Hippocoon goes first and he hits the mast but misses the bird. Menesthius manages to hit the knot tying the bird, therefore setting it free, and Eurytion then sees his chance and tries to shoot the bird after praying to his brother Pandarus. And then Acestes tries to shoot, and his arrow literally bursts into flames. So Aeneas looks at this and is like, this must be a sign from the gods, and therefore you get first prize, Acestes. Well done. So then it's a horse parade. It's just some young dudes on horses prancing around, and this is supposed to act as an etiological story for the Troy Games, where it's the same thing. Young men would just go about on horses, kind of like that. I think it's called dressage. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's kind of like that, and the whole point of this was to show off the youth and the future of Rome and blah 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 blah. Because you can't forget, this is all propaganda for Augustus. This is just to show oh look, the traditions that we're displaying today, even though I, Augustus, technically made this up. They were around since Aeneas' time. I'm just copying him. This is definitely not my own invention. So while this is all going on, Juno is still very pissed at the Trojans because she just can't give them a break. So she sends down Iris to stir some shit up. So Iris disguises herself as Beroe. Might have to correct me on that pronunciation. She's an old woman, basically, and urges the women to set fire to the ships under the pretense that it will make them settle here because they've been sailing for too goddamn long. And she throws the fire first, but then Pergo is like, hey, this isn't Beroe, she wouldn't do this. And all the women get super confused and are like, oh fuck, well, should we throw the fire? Should we not do it? Like, who do we trust? But then Iris flies off undisguised, and then the women lose their shit so much that they decide, hey, this is definitely a sign we should burn the ships, and so they burn the ships. So Eumelus sees this and runs back to the people and tells everyone, hey, our women are kind of burning down the ships. And Ascanius, still on his horse, because he's part of this as well, like the horse parade thing, he rides back on horseback and goes to the women, hey, what you all doing? Stop, please. Stop this. And Aeneas arrives shortly after with his men, and the women run off ashamed and are like, oh my god, what were we doing? Oh, why did we do this? And Aeneas prays for some divine help, and rain comes down to put out the flames, so the ships are pretty alright. They're fine. The ships are still there. It's all good. And a guy named Nautes advises Aeneas to leave the old people and women and other weaker members with Acestes, because clearly they're going to be a hindrance if they really want to burn the ships this bad. And Aeneas is kind of a little bummed about this and is like, but I kind of wanted them to come with us. But then the spirit of Anchises apparates in front of him and is like, follow Nautes' advice. It's all for the good of Rome / the place that you're gonna found, which isn't named Rome yet. And then there is another prophecy. Woo. So Anchises is like, right, in the future you're gonna have to fight people in Latium, but first you gotta find me in the underworld with the guide to the Sibyl and learn about your descendants. And then he fades away and Aeneas is like, no, father, and he gets sad again and probably cries. So Aeneas goes to Acestes and is like, hey, can you do this favour for me and take all these people and take care of them? And Acestes is like, sure. And then Aeneas decides to plan their whole city out because Aeneas has to have control over everything. And then they sacrifice and they set sail again. Now, after Juno's whole shtick, Venus is like super pissed and is like, what? Why the fuck does she keep doing this to the Trojans? Why can't she give them a break? Like, really, Juno? And so she goes to Neptune and like begs him to stop Juno's bullshit. Please, for the love of God, do it. And to like just let the Trojans sail safely for once in their lives. And Neptune is like, okay, but first of all, they've got to lose one man just to like make up for that, because that's a big ask. But I'll give you a discounted price of the life of one man. And Venus is like, sure, as long as it's not Aeneas, that's fine. So Somnus, the god of sleep, goes down to Palinurus and tries to convince him to sleep before forcibly making him sleep and fall off the ship while he's sailing the ship. And then Aeneas wakes up, notices Palinurus is gone, and is like, oh no! And then the book ends. So I will see you at some point in the future for another video. So sit tight until then. I might do another productivity stream, but that depends on if I have work that I want to do and when I'm free to do a stream. So look out for that, kiddos. Bye.